Okay, hello everyone, this is Ricky Fury, bringing you the first of hopefully many videos of which I'll be talking about survivability in Star Trek Online. As a tank player myself that will hold my own in virtually all non-elite queues in space, I personally feel I'm a decent expert on the subject. Now this first video will be going over two basic things. First, what damage resistance is and how it works inside the game, and second, where to get the easy mission rewards, survivability consoles, and devices in the game. Now to the first point, damage resistance. Damage resistance is what it sounds like, resistance to a particular damage type. As a basic example, if you are 25% resistant to phaser damage on your ship, and a phaser beam of 100 damage hits your ship with no shields, it would only do about 75 damage, as the damage resistance would remove 25% of that damage. Now, damage resistance is a fantastic trait on your starship, and it is critical for tanking, but it is hard to build up correctly and optimally in order to get the most value out of your console slots due to it being one of the only non-linear aspects in the game. Instead of scaling linearly, it scales on a non-linear regressive curve with an initial limit at game launch of about 75%. Because of this disparate scaling, there is damage resistance rating, which is what is on your consoles themselves, and a damage resistance percentage, which is what you see in the stats on your ship itself. Now, for example, on my ship has an average damage resistance rating of about 83, which leads to percentages over here being around about 44%. Now, not everything is 44%. Some of the things in my trades don't go for everything, and so some things are a little bit less, like radiation. Now, if you just go through your skill tree and just max these things out, you'll end up with a damage resistance rating overall of about 25. Which, if you don't do anything else and you have no damage resistance in your traits or your reputation or your consoles, you'll end up with a percentage of about 20% on your ship, which isn't that bad. Because if you added a trait or added a basic console, some of the things that I'll recommend later in this video, you end up at a little bit better spot, which will be a lot better for tanks. Now, as for some other basic examples, if, for instance, if you for some reason had 110 damage resistance on your ship, this percentage would raise to about 50%. And in the super theoretical, which isn't possible at all in the game, if you had 1,160 damage resistance rating on your ship, you'd be at the relative cap of about 75% damage resistance. Now, you're not going to get that high at all without abilities on your ship. However, if you have some different things that go on your ship, like, for instance, if I do something like this, I am basically there. As you can see here, I'm at almost 80% damage resistance rating, just with a couple of key abilities and consoles that I activated. So yeah, I mean, just having the raw damage resistance, you're not going to be able to get super high. When you're adding abilities, you can definitely get much higher than what your raw standing damage resistance is going to be throughout the game. Now, because of this non-linear scaling, along with being able to get damage resistance in traits, reputation, your skill tree that I already showed you, I would personally recommend only getting one console with a sort of passive damage resistance rating stat in it, because of that scaling. I don't only recommend having a second one at all if you are a tank and if you're getting lots of aggro and are just having trouble staying alive. However, even so, in that particular circumstance, I would still recommend trying to see if you can find consoles or traits that can increase your hull, increase your shields, and increase your hull repair rate and your shield regeneration rate. Trying to look around there first. And only if you can't figure out that, then okay, slap another damage resistance console onto your ship to let you survive. It's a little bit easier. Now, in terms of the missions themselves, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the three missions with the three consoles that I feel are most important, And then for those of you who are interested in watching the entire video, then I'll go through the rest of the consoles that I feel are noteworthy to mention inside of this video. Alright, so to start off with, we are going to go towards one of the very end missions in the game currently, which is a mission called Ragnarok. Now it has this really good console called Trillium Deplating. Now it has pretty good damage resistance rating. Now not to mention it has decent hold capacity. It has very good shield capacity, and it adds aux power to shields inside of this. Now, for a budget build and even mid-level tank, this is a must-have console. Like, if you're just going to have one survivability console, I'd even dare to say on a lot of your DPS builds, you're probably going to want this one console on your ship. Just saying. Now for a little bit higher one that scales a little bit better, I would go to a mission called Brushfire. And there's a console which you inherently get with the mission called the House Martok Defensive Configuration. Now, all the stats on here are great for tanks, but it's also stuff that scales linearly. It's not like damage resistance that has a non-linear curve on it. All this stuff here that it mentions, it scales linearly. So you can add this alongside your stuff that's going on to allow you to be a lot tankier. When it comes to if you're going to be a DPS person, this is only a must-have if you're going for disruptor damage. If you're going for disruptor damage, then yes, this is a must-have console to have on your ship because of the 360 weapon alongside this thing and the bonuses that you get from it. The third one, I feel it's noteworthy to mention right at the very beginning, is in a mission called Butterfly. Now, for all of you science captains, you're already aware of this console. It's called the Temporal Disentanglement Suite. For basically any exotic particle build, any sciencey type build, this is basically a must-have console. For everyone else, it's nice to have if you can fit it into your build and it works for you. Now, the additional critical chance based upon auxiliary power isn't the greatest on tanks, just because very often for tanks you'll end up going a beam type build just to get the maximum threat, and you'll have to have your secondary power being shields. So you're not going to benefit fully from the additional critical chance of critical severity from auxiliary power, but it does have nice shield capacity of 20%, as well as 3% shield resistance. Shield resistance is a different thing I'll probably cover in another video, but it's a good trait that's really hard to find in consoles. It's decently easy to find in abilities, but hard to find in consoles, and it's something very valuable to inherently have on your ship. Now I'll go and go through the very beginning to things that I think are noteworthy. This first mission is called Skirmish. In all three factions, it's in different tabs. For Romulans, it's nice in that Spectre is its own thing. I can't remember if Klingons have it as their own as well. For Federation, you have to look for it. But this is actually a device, and it's called the Subspace Field Modulator. Now, whenever you're getting towards the beginning of the game, this additional 34 all damage distance rating is pretty valuable, especially at the early levels. Once you get towards the end of the game, if you're like a tank like me who has 83 damage resistance already on your ship, the additional 34 isn't really doing that much. The value here is that this gives an additional 15 defense rating for 15 seconds. Defense rating is also an excellent stat to have, and it's something that's very hard to find in consoles and devices. And that's the reason why I value this highly. Now, there is the minus 400 proton damage resistance, but there's only really two species that I found that actually does proton damage, and that's the Davidians, which I've never fought in space. Then there's the Voth on very specific weapons in space and on ground, which you're rarely going to fight. They're barely in any of the stories at all, like literally barely in any of the stories. So yeah, you're not really gonna have to worry about the minus 400 proton damage resistance for the most part. So yeah, now you skip all these things here, and you go all the way to the Iconium War. Most of the stuff in here kind of sucks. There are some good traits in here. Maybe in a different video I'll cover traits, but for this video I'm just covering some consoles, so I'm not really going for that. Inside of here, before the release of the recent expansions, this thing called the Neutronium Alloy. Now this thing has existed for a while, but they gave you a very rare MK12 one for free. Now, if you need to add a second damage-resistant console, like alongside the Trillium Deplating, this is where I would recommend to get it, because it's a very rare. It's a decent one to get, and it's free. You just go through this mission. Now, the mission is a little bit painful, especially if you're in a cruiser, because of some of the turning that's going on. So usually just go on the easy modes throughout it, and then you're able to get that thing, and you're able to be a little bit tankier if you actually need it. If you happen to go for a speed tank, like if you're going to be in a racing Corvette and trying to do the defense rating way, then you're obviously going to have the Berserk modulator, which gives you additional flight speed, turn rate. Then it just gives you additional weapon power to your engines, so you won't have to invest as much in your engines in order to do the speed tanking. Let's see, what's the next one? House Peg has traits. Butterfly, I already mentioned. Midnight's the next one. So this one, especially at the budget end, this Soul Defense set, I would say for the free sets that you get in the game, this is the best tanking set that you can find. Now there are other ones, like there's the Kabali 3-piece that you can get from a different mission. Without the 4-piece and the activables from those 4 pieces combined, it's not as viable as this one, in my opinion. The only real downside to this set is that it's a Soul Defense covariant shield instead of a regenerative shield. So you're going to have some problems with regeneration, and that it is a true covariant shield. It has a pretty low regenerate considering. The impulse lenses are really nice though, in that as you're getting hit, you're able to get additional defense that stacks over time. Which, as I said, defense is really hard to find in a lot of consoles, especially for ones for tanks. And then this deflector is just a nice standard deflector. The space tray is also nothing to snuff at either. For future proof, this isn't in space, but it's just something to mention. The Nocturnal Temper Operative Personal Shield. This is the most broken shield in the entire game. Unless you're going for a particular 3-piece ground set, get this shield on your character whenever you get to this mission. Let's see, what's another mission that's good? This is a good one. Try and remember. Okay. For this particular console, now if you're going out of order, like for instance, if you're going through some missions in the in the Delta Quadrant, and you're having a lot of trouble against the Vabar, just like one-shotting you with their mines and torpedoes, get this console. It will give you a lot of physical and kinetic damage resistance, and the control effects from those mines and things will have less effects on you. This is a nice survivability console to survive those a little bit easier, especially if you're not doing those in a tier 6 ship. This is a nice console. That's why I remember getting that there. Obviously with Ragnarok, as I mentioned, basically the best go-to survivability console in the entire game. If you're having any questions about survivability, get this thing. You're not going to regret it. Let's see. For Beyond the Nexus, especially if you're going to phaser build and you're already going to get this this omnidirectional phaser that gives you firing cycle haste, which is one of the most broken things in the whole game. But then you might as well get this thing. It's got awesome linear scaling, power transfer rate, which is really good for DPS and things. Alongside, it gives you additional whole healing and additional maximum Starship hit points. So, really nice console there. And I think that's about it for now. So yeah, TLDR, don't stack tons of damage resistance rating consoles. It's not going to help you. If you're going to stack consoles, I would say stack consoles that add hull and shield regen rates, and hull and shield caps, alongside maybe one damage resistance rating console. If you're going to stack consoles like that inside your engineering slots. And yeah, hopefully this video was a little bit valuable to you all, and thank you for listening in.